Well, joining me is Paula Gelling from Victim Support at Isle of Man, and it's really a continuation of the interview I did with John Guest, which I found very moving. I know lots of people kind of really looked at that and went, wow. And I thought it'd be good to talk to you because maybe there are lots of other people, I'm sure there are lots of other people who are living a sort of story like that haven't dealt with it, and you're the sort of conduit, I'm guessing. And I've dealt with you, and I know that you do help lots of people. So really, maybe it's a chance for you to say what you can do for people in a situation like John and others.
Yeah, and like you say, Paul, that people are affected by things that have happened to them many, many years ago, and still living with that, and perhaps not got through it, not dealt with it, or been able to report it for many varied reasons and things. And like you say, victim support can help. We can provide emotional support and practical help. And in John's interview, he mentioned about other agencies and things, and in particular, there are other agencies for certain aspects. So for example, victim support doesn't deal, we're not psychiatrists, we're not psychologists. That's particularly trained people to deal with that sort of area. And again, we don't do counselling per se, we provide the emotional support, but sometimes people just need that the support to help them going through with what they're going through at that particular time, to have what they've been through to be validated, because sometimes they're like thinking, was it just me? And to be validated what they've been through. And we can assist them in talking through the processes. So that might be what would happen if they reported the matter to the police, what would happen if they don't report the matter to the police, and how they can access different aspects as well. In my training and all the staff's training at Victim Support, we've been dealing with those affected by sexual violence for many years now, and we have specialist victim support training for that aspect of it. But in addition to that, I've now gone through the training for an independent sexual violence advisor. So if, say, somebody went to a rape crisis centre in the UK, that's basically what I would be providing the support as if that was the situation here in the Isle of Man. We haven't always got the same facilities available in terms of the evidence gathering and things like that, but we can still provide the same emotional support that they would do as if it was in the UK. And like I say, people come to us, and sometimes people have come to us in their 60s and something happened to them when they were 9, and various reasons they haven't been able to report and things, and sometimes just talking that over through with us can help them put that what happened to them in a better place for them. They maybe can't report it because the person has died or something like that, and people just feel some comfort that they can talk through with it, people who can empathise with what they're going through, and to be able to sort of repack that in a way that it isn't their fault because they were children at the time. Have you seen a massive explosion of people coming forward? Because it was historic stuff has been in the newspapers, on the radio and the television. Has that caused a massive amount of people coming forward? I think through the agencies, either on the Isle of Man and in the UK, certainly since the Jimmy Savile situation, more people are coming forward, more people feel the confidence to report when cases perhaps are going through the court on the Isle of Man, that they can feel confident to be able to report that to the police. But there's a lot of people who don't want to be able to, they want to choose, and they've chosen not to report at that point. And everybody's different, every situation is different, and that's them to make that choice. We can talk through the processes so they can make an informed decision as to what they can do, the pros and cons of reporting, pros and cons of not reporting. And in respect of that, they can then take their time, as to what they want to do, and perhaps decide where they want to go to next. These people are often children, and they're now adults, and they're still living with that. And it's a case of, well, they don't have to live with it in the same way. They can try and talk through with it. And we have a confidentiality policy like any of the other agencies would do, that we don't breach confidentiality unless there's somebody at risk of harm or danger. So if it's in a case of a historic case, we wouldn't be breaching that confidentiality. We would be just talking through as to what they want to do. So they are given that choice, and therefore they feel in control, because often when something's happened to them as a child, they didn't feel in control. And we're trying to give them that control back, and that can be empowering for them to help them move forward and to basically look at things in a different way. Is the hardest part for a lot of people making that initial call to you because they think, oh, you won't be bothered, or it's too long, with that sort of hesitancy to start the ball rolling? Yeah, and sometimes they're thinking, I'm going to have to explain it straight from the start. No, they don't. If we know a tiny little bit about it, that's kind of all we need to know, because they need to feel that they can trust us to be able to talk about things. And sometimes some people have never spoken in detail about what's happened, but we kind of know the general bit, really. And because it's very hard to talk about these things, it's very personal, very intimate.
And isn't there a bit of blame that people always think, oh, I let them do it, or why didn't I do something about it at the time? And they feel really angry now about that sort of thing.
And that's right. And like I say, it's to, you know, talk through as to where the blame should actually sit and where it should realistically lie, rather than them taking the blame themselves. And it's repackaging that in a different way, so they're going, oh, never thought about it like that. So, like I say, we're not counsellors, we're not psychologists, we're not psychiatrists, but we provide the emotional support to help them through that.
Are you swamped, or can you know?
We're busier than we ever were with these sort of cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, we can help and support, and to get help and support, people can contact us by picking up the phone. Our telephone number is 679950. They can contact us by email. Initially, perhaps that might be to just, you know, type something out saying, I'd like to make an appointment, please. And so our email is inquiries@victimsupport.im. And those are probably the best and safest ways to sort of contact us in the first instance. We prefer to do face-to-face conversations, but that doesn't always suit everybody. So we kind of work with what suits people. You
can't talk much about what you do in a sense, but can you give an overview of results? Do people get closure?
Yeah, so I was mentioning the lady who, you know, was in her 60s and things, and she was able to sort of look at things in a completely different way. The cup wasn't half empty, the cup was half full. And so she was able to move forward. You know, people never forget if they've broken their leg and things. And this is almost the same, but obviously much more impact on somebody, and can have an effect on people and their emotional impact for years and years. But they can sort of look at it differently and to think, they weren't to blame, that wasn't their fault. And that helps them move forward with a lighter heart, really, and I think that's important.
And anyone that's just watching this now, that very first step, just as simple as that, the phone call, the email, whatever, can just...
If needs be, they can just say they've seen the interview, they've heard about it, the interview and things, and so we kind of know in general what we're talking about, so therefore we know how we can help them there, and so we don't need to go into details on the phone there and then, because it might be awkward or uncomfortable. And I find so many people, you know, are difficulty just saying there's a 4-letter word, it begins with R, and they can't say the word, and you know, because they've been victims of it. And so I'm not asking them to say that. Like I say, if they've seen the interview, they've been a victim of something similar, that's all they need to say.
Okay. You're funded as a charity, aren't you?
We do get some funding from the government.
You do get some. I was going to say, you need money yourselves, don't you, to do this service, though?
Yeah, and like I say, we're finding ourselves busier and busier. But we can also help and support those affected. If they've been a victim of something historically, we can talk through as to whether they're able to make a claim for criminal injuries compensation. Not everybody is eligible, but we can talk through them as to whether they may be eligible. And that's something people might never have thought about. Often they aren't. They never come to us in terms of this, we're doing this for compensation. They just want to talk through what to someone who can try and partly understand what they've been through.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us. And if you want to see John Guest's story, both the interviews are online here at PMC-TV. And anytime we can do something for you and whatever, publicising things, please feel free to talk to us. And let's hope that sort of spike may now be past. You know, the historic stuff is probably being dealt with now, isn't it? And it should, do you think, be better in the future, or was that just too...
I'd like to think that people feel more confident to be able to come forward, and if there's a spike, I don't want anybody to be a victim of crime. I'd like the cases to be zero, but I think realistically they need to know where to come.